views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
The rug was pulled out from underneath her. She didn't feel confident. She didn't know if she could make it. Yet she rose like the phoenix, leading herself and her family into a new beginning. And you can too. Are you ready? The Kornelia Stephanie Show Lady Boss knows what women want: to be free to speak their voice, live in financial freedom, and build businesses that radiate wealth, leaving legacies we can be proud of. Join Kornelia, Dana, Chris, and Diane the first and fourth Friday every month as they raise the roof to inspire confidence in all women. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Kornelia Stephanie Show. I am with my beautiful co-host, Miss Chrissy D, and we have a very, very special show for you today. Welcome, Chris.
Hello. How is everybody?
Nice to see you.
You too.
I'm so excited about this show today because we are rolling out something entirely new, because we have a new co-host that's going to be with us regularly now. It's going to be you, Miss Chrissy D, myself, and Darlene Turner. And what we're going to be rolling out is we're going to be really shining the light on trauma, abuse, and all ways to overcome it. And today's show is about shining the light on domestic violence. And this is what Darlene Turner, our new co-host, wanted to bring to the show today. So she's adding this whole new piece because that's what she's doing out there in the world. She's out there and she is shining the light, and she wants to empower women that have been in abusive situations to know that they can overcome that and they don't have to stay in it. And that's what we're going to talk about today, right, Chris?
Absolutely. I'm really looking forward to it.
Me too. And so one of the things I want to do before I bring on Darlene to everybody is I want to tell you a little bit about her, because she's our new co-host. So she deserves to have this recognition of what she's overcome and where she's come from. So this woman is absolutely magnificent. She's a personal friend of mine, and I've really watched her grow and evolve into her beautiful self, and she's changing so many lives, and that's why I'm so delighted and honored to have her part of our team. And so let me tell you a little bit about her. Darlene was raised as a Jehovah's Witness on a farm in Saskatchewan. At a young age, she had to choose between family and religion, or what truth her heart was telling her. Life led Darlene down many tough roads until she decided enough was enough and started to go deep and find out what it is that she was really wanting to do to heal and to grow from the trauma and the hardships, to really, really love herself. And through this healing journey, Darlene learned many healing modalities, such as body talk, very popular, Reiki, very popular, theta healing, very popular, and access bars. She is well known for her intuitive deep tissue massage and being able to relieve chronic pain through her gifts and intuition. Her passion for animals led her to complete her education as a registered equine therapist. She enjoys using her tools and skills gained in that course on all animals and humans. Connecting to the quantum field and the electromagnetic field that surrounds everything, Darlene is able to make a real difference to any imbalances in the body and mind and emotional bodies, relieving and bringing balance back to your body. And that is what we all want. Working with anyone around the world through Zoom or Skype, she can do this, or in person. Darlene now focuses on finding and clearing issues from the origin, whether it's this lifetime, genetic DNA, or parallel lives, and end soul contracts. From this clean slate, she empowers and guides clients to shift their frequency into wholeness and recreate their DNA, becoming aware of their beliefs and patterns that run in the subconscious and start changing them one by one. Today, Darlene is hitting the streets, speaking at all the places that where she can to empower women who have or are experiencing trauma in their relationships. Welcome, Darlene Turner.
Oh my gosh, Kornelia, thank you so much. You are a treasured friend of mine as well, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity that you have presented for me to have a platform to reach out to those women out there that have been through domestic violence or maybe still in it. There's many stages around it. So I am so grateful for this opportunity, and I'm so grateful to join your team here.
I know, it's so exciting, and I know that Chris can feel it too. Miss Chrissy D, we're so excited.
Super excited to have you here. Super excited.
Yeah,
You got a lot to teach us.
yeah, this is going to be fantastic. So it was interesting. Just before I came on the show today, I went to Facebook and I, shared and promoted a little bit again about this show today. And this is what I saw right away. A person commented under the headline that said, "Shining the Light on Domestic Violence." And here's what she said: "Shine more light on narcissistic abuse. I've come to discover there are so many others out there that are experiencing it." And I'm sure that we ladies can recognize that, the narcissistic abuse and the overcoming of trauma. But Darlene, you're going to take us into your hero's journey, and you're going to tell us a little bit about your story and what you had to overcome, which is how people can heal, because people heal through stories, right? So please, enlighten us and let us know about what you had to endure and go through and how you got to where you are today.
Okay, well, my real hero, embracing my hero story is something recent. I really had left all that in the background, in the history. It was dark, it was lonely, it was sad, and I didn't want to go there. I just wanted to keep focusing forward. And I did some speaker training, and in this speaker training, it said, what is your story and what are you producing in your life that is your hero story and sharing with the world? And I found what I was doing wasn't really matching my story. So I really had to go back into that darkness and that place I didn't want to go to find my nugget and to find that piece of why I went through all of that so I could bring it forward and embrace it and share it with the world. Pardon me. So I will start with my hero story, is that, like Kornelia mentioned, I was raised in a cult type religion, so really never having a voice. And then going into my first relationship, which later ended up being my marriage. For the first couple of years, life was pretty good. I was really raised secluded because of the religion, so everything was new. So definitely went into the drugs and alcohol and that whole scene. And after a couple of years, good times started turning bad, and really violence was starting to enter my life. But it was presented in a way that I had done something wrong, and it was in a way that I deserved it, or I shouldn't have pissed him off type thing. And he started to be a lot more erratical. I just never knew what I was going to come home to, what would set him off. And so life became really stressful around that. It was really scary because you just never knew. And there was times I came home from work and actually the couch chairs were on the front lawn. The whole house was turned upside down, and he had been looking for his keys. And so you didn't know what to set him off. We had 2 children together, so 10 years apart. And I began to realize as I was working, the abuse that was happening to me was starting to get turned on to my oldest daughter. And because I had been through so much of the violence with him, with drinking and stuff, that there was this one night that really was my breakthrough night. I had been living in this fear and terror for so long, and he was mad at my oldest daughter. He was really mad at my oldest daughter. And I was in my bedroom, which I shared with my youngest daughter. And I was shaking and I was so scared and crying. And I couldn't even bring myself to come out of that room and stand up for her. I was so scared. And I felt so bad and so guilty and shame around that. And I laid there just shaking all night as I heard him yelling and yelling at her. And she was about 13, 14 at that age. And soon though the yelling stopped, but I stayed shaking all night in fear, listening for those footsteps outside my door. But in that darkness and in that terror is where I found my courage. And I decided that's it. Staying is no longer an option. And I got up the next morning and I packed her bags and we called the police, we called a taxi, and I called my daughter. She was at school and I said, we're going to leave. It's time to get out. And she said, Mom, my bags are packed and I'm ready to go. So we were able to get out that morning. But I had stayed 17 years. It was just too terrifying to actually embrace leaving ever before. So this was my first time of really, it takes something, I don't know what it is, to really break through and have to walk through that fire and that fear to get out.
Wow, that's just absolutely incredible. And I know that a lot of women can relate. You know, Chrissy, she has a different story, and she's going to share with us in just a little bit. But one of the things that came to me while you were talking, Darlene, is your daughter. I mean, I understand that you were definitely, you know, in fear and scared, and just your daughter. That did she feel that you weren't standing up for her? Did she feel that you weren't, you know, helping her? Or was there issues that you had to overcome with your daughter after healing that had to happen between the two of you in order to be able to, you know, bring healing to the relationship?
Definitely, there was. She, wasn't even just that moment, but it was many, many moments before that while I was at work and circumstances that she was put in that she was just like, why didn't we leave sooner? But her own life experiences, she repeated that pattern and she actually lived her own marriage where she kept going back as well. So she learned firsthand what it is that takes to leave these relationships that are dysfunctional and abusive.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we learn what we live, and if I remember correctly, you know, based in our private conversations, that you have told me that your mother was a bully, you know, that your mother was pretty angry all the time, and your dad was the one that was the safe place to go to, and your mother was, you know, she was the one that was, you know, had that energy. And so it seems like you went out of that situation, the childhood home, into this situation, right? You were looking to be, you know, to get out of it, and then you ended up in that situation, right? Is that what happened?
Of forgiveness on my side from my mother and realized that her mother was abusive to her. And I asked her, like, why did you give me so much lickings? And, I thought I was a pretty good kid. And she said, well, that's what my mom did. She just reached out and walked her one every time she was angry. So, this is a learned behavior that's carried through generations a lot of times.
Yeah, and that's why you're bringing this out. And I'm so glad that through your speaker training that you found this nugget again, and that you are now out there shining the light on trauma and domestic violence and abuse. Because again, there's so many people, just like we learned on this Facebook post this morning, talking about the narcissistic behavior. And, my co-host, Miss Chrissy D, we've been talking about this for the last 6 months when we've been sharing her story, which Chris had the ultimate betrayal story in that I've ever heard. Is she had a business and had an empire and had her own success, her own home, had everything built, and then brought in her partner, and literally he robbed her and took everything from her, and without her knowledge, and had children with this man, and thought that they were in love and everything was going along fine. So when she had told me the story, when I first heard it, I said, "Oh my God, you've got to bring this out and share this story." And so for the last 6 months, we've been sharing this story here on Transformation Talk Radio. And if you haven't listened to Miss Chrissy D's story, go to our YouTube channel at Kornelia Stephanie and type in Lady Boss and look for Miss Chrissy D. And you're going to see over the months where we've shared how the story unfolded and what she had to overcome with the law and the system, and going from living in a backseat of her car to couch surfing, and everything that she's had to endure, to creating now a kit that she is offering to all our listeners here to support you to not have this happen to you, and to be prepared, because you never know when something's going to happen. But anyway, Chris, you have another little insight you want to share with us today about abuse that happened in a previous marriage. Was that right?
Yeah, I've been in abusive relationships before I got into a different kind of abusive relationship. So I guess we attract what we're comfortable with, how we've grown up, what we feel we deserve. And I can absolutely relate to what Darlene's saying. And I've been in a couple of abusive relationships when I was younger, and sometimes been in pretty dangerous situations. And it's really hard to come forward and tell people your self-esteem is really low, you've been beaten down, there's this perception, like Darlene said, well, we deserve it. Or people are like, well, what did you do to upset him? And so instead of making yourself empowered to get out of these situations, you're feeling low, changing yourself constantly, trying to keep somebody else happy, and you keep getting smacked down, literally. Literally. I've been beat up, I've been kicked, I've been pushed out of my house. One time I woke up with a pillow over my head and fingers in my eye sockets. And there was a telephone right there, and I was too afraid to pick it up in case nobody would get there to help me before he got even madder. So, yeah, I traded that for a different kind of abuse, but now I think I've got it figured out. No more of that.
What do you all think is the thing that stops women from taking action?
You know what? I think there's a lot of different reasons. People don't believe you is one, but you're also not just leaving a relationship. You're actually giving up your whole life. When I'm in a relationship, or other women, you're in relationship with their family as well. They become your family. Now you're giving up friends, you're giving up family, you're giving up support. And when you give up the support that you don't know if there's going to be support out there for you. I work in an industry with a lot of people that work in transition houses and things like that. There's not the help out there that we think there is.
My side, that before he even actually was violent with me, there was a town that we were in, and it was on the news where the man came in the shot the woman. And right from that story, I was just like, well, that's not an option for me, because I totally knew there's like, if he wanted to do whatever he was intended to do, there was no stopping him. So that was a big thing through my marriage, was just like, just wasn't an option for me, there, and just that fear holds women back, as well as a lot of times these women's husbands or partners are in a community figure, could be a police officer, could be just a person respected in the community, and people don't believe them.
Yeah.
There's yeah, even a real bigger fear around that because this person is in a place.
And that's still very relevant today. On the news this morning was about a woman who someone broke into their house and was stabbing the woman. This was just on the news this morning. And the sister called 911, and 911 was never dispatched. So it's still a real fear today that there's not going to be help out there for you.
Which is the reason why, we're here sharing these stories so that you can really, it's in the notes I saw that Darlene created, that the men have the power, which is the reason why it's important for women to become empowered, to realize their value and to realize their worth, and to realize that that is not love. Being abused is not love. And if you allow someone to treat you like that, that's a clear sign of a toxic relationship. I grew up in domestic violence my entire childhood because my father was absent. And so my mom was always trying to find a person that was going to take my dad's place, and a person that was going to help her raise her children. She had 3 children. So she had all these boyfriends that she was bringing in to see if one of them would qualify to help her raise her children and put food on the table. Well, these men abused her. And there was one time when I always looked forward to the weekend because that was the time when my mom was home and the weekend, Sunday was going to be for us. And I remember distinctively one weekend when the boyfriend, took my mom to the woods and he tied her to a tree. And he took big pieces of wood stem and he beat her so bad to where I couldn't recognize her the next morning when I walked into the room to let her know that breakfast was ready because the sheets were all the way put over her head and I thought she was dead. And it took me 3 months to nurse my mother back to life. And so from that time on, from the time I was a little girl, when I saw that, we're always seeing that's not the world I want to be. That's not what I want for me. And so that was the whole thing, is that I'm not going to ever let a man lay a hand on me, and I will never let a man abuse me. And I haven't had that in my life, but there's certainly been places in my life where I've given my power away in many, many times and many relationships. But it's a hard lesson to learn for us. But ladies, learning how to really love yourself and honor yourself and value yourself, because we teach people how to treat us. We teach people how to treat us. And it's really, really important, especially now, the young ladies that are out there. I hear you talk a lot about our girls, Chris, because you're a big advocate of that, teaching our girls value, teaching our girls worth. And, it starts with loving yourself, and it starts with releasing guilt. Guilt is a useless feeling, right? And claiming your power and making a better choice for yourself today. So that's why I'm so glad we're talking about this.
Learning how to make better choices. It's so important, and to surround yourself with those kind of people. At work this morning, we were talking about this, and we have a young man in the office. And I said to him, do you have any guys, friends that you think have ever hit a woman? And he looked for a few seconds and he said, no, because I wouldn't have friends like that. I would walk away. And then he went further and said, I'd probably hit them back. And it's like, we have to know how to pick those kind of men. We have to teach our girls to pick the good men. There's lots of good men out there, instead of always going to these people that need help.
Yes. Darlene, you talked about support, getting support. What is your advice for ladies that are listening to this, and all the people that are listening to this, we would really love it if you would help us share this podcast, share this YouTube video, and also comment and subscribe to the YouTube so that we can get this message out there for as many people as possible, and have the support that they need. Just like, you know, you don't need to stay in a toxic relationship for one more day. You need to find the support and get out today. And so, Darlene, what's your advice to getting the support? What would the first steps be?
Well, it's always a big picture and a big thing to tackle. So you're very right. It is those first steps. And sometimes it's just a true friend that you can talk to, just to, have somebody on your side, somebody to call. And then it really is a journey of self-love and value, because that was what was my breaking decision. I did go into a second marriage. I did repeat the pattern for another 10 years, and it was abusive. But it was that point that I reached that I love myself enough that I am no longer going to be treated like that. And once you say that to yourself and you really decide and commit to yourself, there's no stopping you. You'll get the help you need. You'll get out. You'll get to somewhere safe. And the big, big part of it is calming your nervous system down, getting somewhere where you can just breathe and take that break and just bring your adrenals down, bring your body down. So that's another huge resource to do once you can get to somewhere safe. I know Chris has a few resources that she knows a little bit more that are options for people that they may not know about. So I turn it over to Chris about that.
One of the things I have in the pink files is actually a section where everybody should know what resources are there in your community. Really important. Even if you're not ready to leave, have those resources. Look for the women's centers, look for outreach workers, look for transitional housing or secret housing that's out there, and make contact with those people so that they know who you are, so that when you do decide that you want to do something and put yourself first and leave for you so that you don't go back, then you've got the resources there. You've already got them figured out, so you don't have to figure them out in trauma. And make sure you've got a couple of good friends surrounded around you that no matter what are going to be there for you.
And that friend is going to tell you that it's time for you to get out and be there for you and support you, because that's what you came here. You did not come here to be abused. You didn't come here to live this kind of life. You didn't come here. You don't deserve that. You deserve to be loved, to be honored, to be respected, to thrive in your life. And your children do. And that's why we're here sharing this message with you. You're listening to the Kornelia Stephanie Show. I'm with my new co-host, Miss Darlene Turner, and also Miss Chrissy D. We'll be right back. We're going to take a break.
My name's Bob Skeel. I'm 91 years old, and I want to take a few minutes now to share with you the important role, actually the critical role, Kornelia has played in my life. I say critical because I'm not sure I'd be alive at all to the many possibilities that make up our human experience at my age, if not for her. I could have easily become another dead man walking, only half conscious, stumbling through my remaining years, if it hadn't been for Kornelia. 6 years ago, I lost my wife to Alzheimer's. We'd been married for 61 years. I never thought I'd be a widower, but there I was, suddenly lost and alone, but with the good sense to set a working goal for myself. I was going to spend the rest of my life committed to unconditional love, whatever that meant and wherever that took me. A year or so later, Kornelia came along, helping me over several years to focus that unconditional love where it had never been focused before, on me. My whole life, my entire being had been focused on love of neighbor, and I had derived great satisfaction from that. But in the process, I had ignored the second part. I love your neighbor as yourself. Now it was time to direct that love inward. I didn't see that right away, but Kornelia did, and she drew me there. She drew me actually to God. Through many conversations over coffee and after numerous, sometimes tearful, agonizing discussions, Kornelia was able to lead me, kicking and screaming, to within where I needed to be. It was there finally that I was able to re-identify myself. It was in bringing unconditional love to myself that I now saw myself in a new light, a fully conscious, worthy human being, capable of healing, loving, and creating in my own right all these gifts of the evolutionary process. I'm a new man now, younger as I get older. I don't move as fast as I once did, of course, but my smile is quicker and I engage the heart and mind of others more readily. I would likely not be at such a wonderful stage in my life if not for Kornelia. I owe my new life to her, a wonderful friend and a constant source of inspiration. Thank you, Kornelia.
We were talking during the break. We were talking about how Chris right now is supporting a woman. Miss Chrissy D is supporting a woman. You want to tell that story? You want to tell us a little bit about that?
What I want to say is, I think all of us that have been through this situation, we all have people that we support. I meet people at work and stuff that I have to support through this. And it's really important when you're supporting them to know they're going to go back. They go back and forth until they get the strength. It is a process for a woman to leave an abusive relationship for all of those reasons. So I just want to tell people out there, it's really good to be black and white with them, to keep reminding them that it's not okay, that they're worth more, but to also have empathy, patience with them. It can be really frustrating. It's like, well, it's her fault. She's gone back again. It's a process. It takes time, and we really need to be patient. We always want to keep our door open so that the women know that when they do decide to leave, they have somewhere safe to go.
Yeah, I love that. It just reminds me of actually a story of a woman. You said it, because you said it's a pattern. They go back. It's a process. It takes a while to
I
go.
did it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does take a while. And it was really true, because recently a friend of mine that was in an abusive relationship, she said to me, she goes, "You were the only one that held the space for me and didn't judge me with me going back and keep going back until I was really ready to leave." And I forgot all about it, but that's true. It's so important to not judge and to have compassion, to let that person make their own choices, but to keep affirming and reminding them of their value and their worth and how beautiful and how important they are, right?
And it's a really hard thing to do when you're seeing somebody that you care about going through that. It really is hard. From the day that I decided to leave, it still took me 2 years to get the courage to get up and leave. And then sometimes I get frustrated when I'm trying to support other women, and I have to go, hey, you have to remember how hard it is and keep the door open.
Yeah. What about you, Darlene? You had, that was a process for you to really work on your own healing, right?
Yes, just to add to what you ladies are talking about, with my first marriage, there wasn't a lot of escape. I pretty much covered my black eyes and went to work or whatever was going on that time. But my second marriage, his parents actually lived down the hill, and I would run down to his parents with my daughter when he was freaking out drinking and mad, and stay with them for 2 or 3 weeks till I go back again, because you know what? They're always like, oh, I'll change, I'll stop drinking. And so you just kind of, like you said, you have this dysfunctional love in a way, and you just keep hoping, yeah, they'll change, and you go back. And so what it came for me was to realize I was the only one that could change. They weren't changing. It was just plain, 17 years and 10 years, so 27 years altogether. It was really that realization I had to change. So when I did realize, like I said, about realizing my value, which is my nugget I took out of it, and that self-love. And I took that time. I took like 5 years. I lived in a mobile home on a lake, and I worked minimum as I could get away with, just to pay the rent and take care of my daughter. And I spent all my time in my room. I had an altar. I meditated. I did some online courses, and I really, really connected to my heart and found out, who am I? Like, what do I like? Because all the time when we're in those relationships, we're just trying to please them, or, it was just trying to keep calm. So it was never, who am I? What do I like? And so it was really a soul search that I went through. I call it like boot up the mountain. It was really tapping into my heart, getting my own guidance, and finding that self-love and letting that healing happen, that forgiving of myself, because really I forgave him. It was easy for me, because to me, he was sick. It was like when he was mad or violent, there wasn't even me standing in front of him. It could have been anybody. And so for me, it was easy to kind of oversee or overlook the bigger picture of his sickness and disease. But it was my own forgiveness for staying so long and not taking care of myself. And so that was my huge healing work. And as Kornelia mentioned, after that, it was several years of healing modalities as each layer peels off. And, finally, like I said, that last layer of really going back and getting that nugget and embracing my history and my story, rather than just leaving it back there and not wanting to look there. And so, yeah, that was a big part of my recovery.
Yeah, I got the visual when you were talking about living in your mobile home. It's kind of like you were just like, living by water on the lake. The water is healing and nurturing, and basically the mobile home and being with your daughter, and like that was like your spiritual ashram. And it was like that was the place where you were going to find the healing. You yourself investigating who you are, what do you like, what are your values, what are your beliefs, what is this all about, and just being okay with that's enough. And even though it was just quiet and probably at times very painful to look at some of the shadow work and different things that we uncover during that time. But what a worthwhile thing to do. It's a beautiful journey when we really spend time to get to know who it is that we are at the core, at our heart, why we're here, the immense, amazing value that we have. What I love about your story is how you've overcome, the religious programming, the conditioning, from going from a Jehovah's Witness household. Many people have had that programming that you've had to overcome, and then the trauma and abuse, to now your mission is to go out and to educate women in trauma. You're going out to speak. You're speaking at speaking engagements. We want to let the audience know that if they want to hire you for speaking engagements or have you come and speak at their groups, that you're willing to do that. And also, I want to shine the light, since we're shining the light today, I want to shine the light on the amazing person that sponsored you today on this show. So let's do that.
Okay, well, my sponsor, which I am so very grateful for, because if it wasn't for her and sponsors that we are looking for to help sponsor us, to get our message out there and reach these women that are alone, that are in the secrecy around it, because there's not talk around it, and it's shame. And so I'm so very glad that we have this platform and sponsors that help us. It's OK Boot Corral is my sponsor for this show, and they are 205 Carroll Street, Gastown, Vancouver. They have a website which you can order their products. They are all Western wear, so cowboy boots, Stetson hats, the big long raincoats is OK Boot Corral. So with 2 R's at corral.com.
That's awesome, Darlene. The next time when we're on, I want to bring the website up. We'll have Kat pull the website up so people can see it. Pull the website up and that people can see the Western wear and what you're talking about. So next time we'll give another shout out to your beautiful sponsor. I want to also give a big gratitude, and I know Miss Chrissy D does too, for sponsoring the show. And we really appreciate that, because it takes a lot of work to put these shows together, our time, our value, and then all our team at Transformation Talk Radio that produces and that does everything for us. So it really is, it takes a team, it takes a village to get this out, and we value and appreciate you, right, Chris?
And we need to go we need to all go get some boots, those of us that live around here, because I think it's so important to support the people that are supporting us to do the right thing. Everybody needs to go out and support the people that are giving us the opportunity to do this. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here.
Very true.
Get your walking boots on.
That's right.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. These boots are made for walking.
Yeah.
Isn't that the message for the ladies? Is these boots, we want to get you in those boots, and we want to get you walking. We want to get you walking out of that domestic violence and into your peaceful existence. Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Chrissy D, let's talk about your kit, honey. We want to, we have a minute before we go to break. Let's talk about the kit and what the kit is and where people can get it.
Awesome. So the PNK file stands for Power and Knowledge. And I learned an awful lot when I was going through my annihilation of losing absolutely everything. And when I ended up in court, I realized I was not prepared, because the water gets so muddied and they throw so much stuff at you that you can't see clearly to what you really need to protect yourself. So I've set up a whole filing system for people that go through what I went through, for people that maybe are going to be going through a divorce, but it's also for people to see their value and their worth and put all their ducks in a row, so that no matter what happens in life, whether you're or your spouse has a heart attack on the way home and you need access to things, whether your house burns down and you lose all your documents, everything that you need is in one easy place for you at all times. And if you're one of the lucky ones and nothing ever happens, well, then it's a nice memory box for your kids when they have to deal with you when you're gone.
Where can people find it?
MissChrissyD.com. Go under the tab that says Get Your Pink On, and you can order the video there, and I will teach you how to put your files together.
And the whole thing about these files and the PNK files, it's not just about this one thing that we're talking about here. It's so much more, because it's really an empowerment tool in order to take charge of your documents, of knowing where everything is, not taking things for granted, because anything could happen. A flood could happen, a fire could happen, death.
We talked about this on a previous show. My girlfriend talked to her husband about doing it, and he was like, "Oh, why, you don't trust me to handle things?" And it's like, that's not the question. The question is, it's to know what you have and to know how to deal with things when things happen. So he said, sure, go ahead. And they found out that once he retires, all his benefits are gone. They wouldn't have known this because it was just in stacks and filing cabinets. Instead of putting everything in the proper order, she then realized they could have retired, and on the way home something happened, and they wouldn't have been covered for anything.
Yeah.
It's
There's so
okay.
many.
It's okay for us to know what we have and to protect it.
Yeah, it's actually a necessity. It's an empowerment tool. It's something that we all need. It just makes you feel more secure. These are great wedding gifts. These are great
Yes.
starter gifts. These are great gifts to give to your children before they leave your household. I mean,
Yes.
there's so much. There's so much. Go to misschrissyd.com and get your kit today. What is it? $29.95 US
Yes.
dollars? Yeah.
Canadian. Yeah.
Yeah.
$24.99 US.
Yeah. I
And,
mean,
you know, I think it's a perfect wedding gift or a shower gift. People say, well, you shouldn't be setting up for a divorce. And it's not about that. It's about both of you knowing what you're coming in with. So you're organizing what you have together and you know what you're keeping apart. And because you're both on the same page, I think it empowers both of you instead of one person sneaking around and one person not knowing and one person feeling bad. And again, ladies, it's okay to know what you own and protect it. I
yeah.
wish I had done it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point, is that, if we would have known back then what we know today, we would have done things differently, right? There's,
Oh, yeah.
we have this precious life that we're living. And, it's about living it and being empowered and being in charge. And, it's not about the competition thing or hiding your power or feeling bad about wanting to know what's going on. And that's the whole point. So, I mean, here we are. We're just going to skip this last break, ladies. So we have just a few minutes left. And Darlene, so you want to talk to us about how you summed this whole thing up and left your, this inner reflection, went through this inner reflection, and give us your talking points there.
Okay, well, really, I am passionate, and I found that I am so driven to go into communities and start supporting the transition houses there and supporting the people that have been through these survivors of domestic violence. So my husband, Michael, and I are actually going into 5 communities starting next year. We'll spend 6 weeks in each community and do free talks, free workshops, and help. If people want to, they can sign up for us to work with them on an extended time period of 9 months. And what I want to say is that my offer is my meditation. It's on my website, TLC healinghands@gmail. No, sorry, that's my email at tlchealinghands.com. And that's where you can click that and get my meditation. My meditation is $20, $5 of that every sale goes to the local transition housing community that I'm working on. And the meditation is about recreating you. So if you've been in a place where it's very fearful or you're feeling all these stuck emotions, this meditation walks you through into how you prefer to feel so that you can bring in that calmness, that peace, whatever it is for you. And as you can do this several times a day or, every day at least, then it starts to recreate how you show up in the world, and your inner world will change your outer world. So buy my meditation today and be donating to the good cause of transition houses. And if you don't, then support your local transition house so that we can build stronger and better transition houses for women to feel safe, and more of them, because what's worse than women coming for help and getting turned away because there isn't enough room?
And that happens all the time. People would be surprised how many people get turned away because there's only so many beds. So I'm going to order your meditation kit. And I'm also going to say that for people that order the PMK files, I will also donate to you to give to the transition houses, because I think that's awesome.
I love this level of generosity. That's absolutely beautiful. And again, both of you ladies are asking for sponsors of this show. And so, Chris, what is your request to people that want to sponsor you?
You can do it a few ways. If I come out and speak for you, you can buy kits to support it for your group that I'm going to be speaking at, or you can send it out to the people in your group and I will send off a sponsor package where you can sponsor the show as well. And you'll get lots of advertising. I tell my friends the cool thing about sponsoring on this show, when you buy a commercial or a radio spot, it's just for a certain period of time. But when you sponsor one of our shows, every time somebody watches the show that goes out to 50 different outlets and it's on YouTube, your advertisement is going to be attached to that forever for your one-time sponsor. You can't lose. What a great way to help out.
Yeah, it is a great way to help out. And to our beloved audience, we want to ask you to please share this podcast, share the YouTube video when you see it, and comment underneath it, because what that does, it creates a dialogue, and the hosts are going to go in there and they're going to interact with you. Also, for those of you that want to be part of our live studio audience, it's really awesome when I'm just now rolling this out. So if you want to be part of our live studio audience to receive gifts and benefits, for you to be part of the audience, because you can interact with the hosts and ask questions. So if you want to do that, and if you want to be part of the live studio audience, you can go to KorneliaStephanieVIP.com. And that's where you can get your live studio audience pass exclusively, and you can be with us during this time. And we're going to be handing out money, we're going to be handing out prizes, we're going to be giving out free gifts. So we invite you to participate with us, because we know how valuable your time is, and we really value that, because we know our value. And that's the thing. So if you come and you join us, it's going to be really part of a beautiful collaboration. radio@KorneliaStephanie.com. If you want to have any more information about any of these podcasts, you can share with me there, or go to KorneliaStephanieVIP.com and get your free access pass. So it's been an incredible show. We touched a lot. We shined the light on domestic violence. We introduced our new co-host, and I think we shared again how important it is to honor the self, to love the self, and to understand, like Chris said, it's a process. It's a process. It doesn't, not to judge, but to find a friend, find a support person, find somebody you can talk to, and get your walking boots on.
Yes.
Yeah. Wonderful. Darlene, do you have anything else that you want to say before we close out today?
Well, I just like to encourage everybody. Not everybody has been through maybe domestic violence, but everybody has been through something hard that has taken you to your knees. And it's not sometimes fun to go back and look at it, but find that nugget so you can turn your story from victim to victory, because that's why we have these experiences. So I encourage all of you to embrace your hero story, find your nugget and your voice, and share it with the world.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Darlene Turner. Thanks, Miss Chrissy D. And thank you, Michael. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, everybody at Transformation Talk Radio. We'll see you all again next time.
Hi, my name is Janet Hickox, and I want to tell you a little story about a story, and how my friend Kornelia Stephanie helped me through to the other end of that story. I have gone from the dark of a story I was telling myself that wasn't true to the light of optimism to see my way out of where I was and to where I want to go. And it all started with her scheduling a session for me to help me reclaim my money or my financial empowerment. Up until that point, I had been telling the story that my business was dying, that my business was not successful anymore. And the more I tried to figure out what was going on, the worse I felt about it. And when I had to get ready to do the session with Kornelia, she asked me to go look at the numbers and where I was through the year to date, and then also to come prepared with a number that I wanted to raise my income to. Well, I was quite comfortable with that part, right? I knew where I wanted to be. What I wasn't comfortable with doing is going and looking up those numbers, but I made myself do it, even though I tried to backpedal my way out of the session. She didn't know that, but I was going to try to get myself out of the session. And I looked up those numbers, and it was incredible that I discovered through that process that my business wasn't dying. In fact, I was doing 12% better than I had the year before. So I was shocked. I was shocked literally at the power of the story that I had been telling for months. But more than that, I was shocked that I had allowed myself to get there. And later in that day when I had my session with Kornelia, she pointed out some very obvious things, like, how are you going to get where you want to go if you don't know where you want to go? How are you going to get there if you don't have the goals written out, if you don't have it set up so that you know where you are and where you're going to go? Totally makes sense, right? I had been in business, somebody else's business, as a sales manager for years, and I was a national sales manager. I had awards for sales management. I had business awards because of numbers. And yet when it came to doing my own business, I totally forgot all that I'd ever learned. So by the time Kornelia, working with me in just one session, got me to look deeper at the numbers and where did I want to go, and actually, claiming where I wanted to go, I was filled with a sense of optimism and hope like you can't believe. It was like everything shifted for me. And I am so looking forward to our continued sessions to see how far I can really push myself to get where I've only dreamed of being, where I've never taken the dream and actually brought it into concrete existence. So thank you, Kornelia, for the work that you're doing out there. I appreciate it, and I can't wait to see where I go from here.